Welcome to Healthy Lifestyle. I'm Lori Anne Casdia. Our goal here at Healthy Lifestyle is to inspire, educate, and empower you to fulfill a healthy, emotional, spiritual, and physical life so you can feel empowered to live the life you have always wanted and dreamed. So we are very excited today, as we are every week, because I love what we do here, bringing opportunities to you to dip your toe into things and find information about things you may or may not have been exposed to. And today we have Margreit Maitland. She is an author, and we're very honored to have her on. Welcome to the show, Margreit.
Oh, thanks, Lori Anne. I'm really very excited to be here.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. We're excited because you have a new book out.
I do. And it will be out the first week of February. Very excited. I may have it in my hands, a few copies in my hands on later this week, but very excited.
Yeah, it's that's such a wonderful, wonderful process to be able to put your thoughts down. But what I love about it is the story. So let's back up for a second before we jump into the story of your new book, which is called Runaway at Sea. But how did you get to a point where, because you weren't always a writer,
right?
But you always had the skill of writing.
Yes.
Yeah, and we all have the love of writing and reading. But how did you get into writing?
Well, if I think back to, I did so much reading as a kid and in high school, wide range of stuff from Stephen King to Agatha Christie and Jane Austen, and Gone with the Wind's my favorite. Yeah. Anna Karenina is my second favorite.
Come on, Little Women, stop it.
Yeah, well, that's on. It's in the top 5.
Okay,
it's in
good.
the top 5.
All right. You can
so
stay.
I always loved to read, and I always wanted to write something. I just never thought I had an original concept. So actually around 2001, about a year, 2000, about a year or so before my grandfather passed away, he gave me the journal, which is the life story of my great-great-grandfather, Robert. Along with a really nice trinket, a family heirloom, which is fits in the palm of my hand, but it's carved out of mahogany in the shape of a Victorian lady's shoe. It's an old snuff box.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But it was Robert's. So 170 years ago, he held it in his hands, and he passed it to his daughter, my great-grandmother. She passed it to my grandfather. He gave it to me along with the story. So the story came from, him telling his 7 children as they were raised all these crazy stories of his life. And then she retold them to her children, of which my grandfather is one. And they all said, you got to write this down. And so she did. And then my grandfather typed it up. So that's where the concept came from. But it took a while to remember I had it and to and for the idea to germinate.
Well, it reveals itself when it's supposed to. You probably weren't ready for it then, and now you were ready for it just recently.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. And I love things. I'm very much a traditionalist, and I do like making memories with my kids. I think that's an important thing. We were talking about that earlier,
right? About
you making memories with yours, and I love the traditions that go down. Matter of fact, I'm wearing my dad's wedding ring, and I wear my mom's wedding ring all the time. I loved it, and the most important thing about it, they're very simple wedding bands, as you can see. My listeners, you can't see it, but they're very traditional, basic wedding bands. But to me, it had their oils on it, and it was something that they had touched. And it's so meaningful to be able to have that. And I know that my son, Nick, wants them when I'm done with them. So he will be getting them for the same reason, to be able to keep it, to keep the tradition, to keep their memory alive. And I think it's a real important thing. So that snuff box is just touches me in ways that I can't even explain.
Yeah, I used to keep it out on my vanity. And once the writing moved from hobby to a real goal, when I joined critique groups and I started really bringing it out to read aloud and get some feedback on the story, I put it in like a little like a soft carrier, almost like a little velvet pouch, and I put it in my keepsake box. And so that's where it is right now, because when the kids were little, I was just so afraid, that something was going to happen, not on purpose, but by accident. So I kind of put it in this safe place. So I may, now that everybody's older, I may take it out again, but
yeah. So let's back up for a second. You mentioned your critique groups, your network networking groups. Talk to us about that. I know you got involved in, and that was a really big
that push. That was push forward for me to build the skill and fine tune it. I started with the Amateur Writers Group of Long Island, which I kind of found by accident because my mother read in the paper about a women's writers group in Huntington, which there is one. So when I was looking for that one, I fell over this one, and I ended up going to that meeting, and I just really gelled with the people right away.
So what do those meetings look like?
So we all sit around a table. It could be sometimes it's 8 or 9, sometimes it's 30 people. It depends on who comes. It's every other week, so twice a month. And the limit is 12 to 1,500 words. You read aloud. You give everyone a copy. So it's a lot of paper, but it helps because as you're reading it aloud, the other people in the group are actually making notes. And then when you're done reading, you get about 5 to 15 minutes of an open feedback session. So people will say, great, page 1. I was good till paragraph 3 of page 3 where you lost me. And then the other valuable thing I learned is reading it aloud. You don't realize, like, I would prepare what I needed for the group. And it also held me accountable to get something done that week.
Very important.
So I always wanted to go and make sure I had something. So when I went, I would think it was tight. I'm ready. I'm proud of this. I'm going to read it aloud. I'm going to bring it to the group. And then all of a sudden in paragraph 4, there's 10,000 pronouns. And I'm thinking, who put 10,000 pronouns in paragraph 4? Because it couldn't have been me. So you really do realize things like that when you read it aloud.
Well, it sounds different in your head. Also, we have a propensity to fill in the blanks, and we don't. So I know that I'm not good at proofing my own stuff because I know what I meant. And that's what I see, and that's not what's necessarily on the page. So I either have to step away from it for a long period of time, or I have to have somebody else proof it. Otherwise, it's just not going to go out without error.
And I think getting feedback and constructive criticism and editing is so important with writing.
Absolutely.
You can't be objective about your own work. And for me, I wanted it to be valuable. I wanted it to be something that people would learn from, that they would enjoy. It was special to me, and I wanted to make sure it was good enough.
Yeah, and I love that too, because you sit there and you second guess yourself, and it's like, oh, maybe it's not me. And you may have put it in a draw, but because you were being held accountable and you were going to the group, you really got your dream propelled forward as a result of that, because you have other people looking at it and giving you helpful information back. Because sometimes we look at something and go, I don't know, will this work? Will it not? Let me bounce it off some people. This is great because they all had the similar goal.
Yeah. And as it stands now, I wouldn't even give something to my publisher without first running it past my critique group.
Yeah.
So we went from being a big group, and then about 6 or 7 of us broke off.
Yeah.
Because the group was getting really big, which is fine. But if you didn't get there right away and sign up, and you weren't the first 10 readers, you oftentimes didn't get a chance to read. So 6 or 7 of us kind of broke off into our smaller group, where we can bring bigger samples and spend more time on critiquing.
Yeah,
so that's the group I've been going to for the last 2 or 3 years. But these people have become really good friends of mine. We're very supportive of each other. And there have been times when I've brought things to the group and it's been ripped to shreds in the nicest way possible, but ripped to shreds with all the things that are missing. And I'm so grateful for that. And it just sounds weird.
No, it doesn't. That goes to conversations we've had on the show before about the ego versus the observer. And when you go into critique groups like that, you really want to put forward your best work. So you really need to put your observer on. Don't take it personal, and take the intake what people are trying to tell you. They're not doing it in a mean way. They're not trying to hold you back or be mean. They're just trying to help you. That's why masterminds, I am a huge proponent. I run a number of masterminds for my mentoring clients and put a small amount of like-minded people together who can help each other, because we don't need to reinvent the wheel. And a lot of times we try to do that ourselves, and it really wastes a lot of time.
Yes.
So by doing that and breaking into the smaller group, you're getting really valuable feedback. And that valuable feedback allows you to take the steps forward that you need. Plus have the confidence and go, yeah, you know what? You're right.
Yeah.
I probably can leave that character out, or probably doesn't bring to the table what I thought it would bring.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I dropped a total of 8 chapters off this book, and much of the decision to do that came from a critique. I gave the book, which was, it was rewritten like 3 times. It's so much better now,
normal.
et cetera. But the first time around, I had given it to a friend of my mother's who's an author, and she read it for me as a favor. And she said, I really like your writing. I'm totally into the story, but the action doesn't start till chapter 8, and you have all this backstory 1 through 7, which is interesting, but I feel that chapter 8 should be 1. And when I heard that, and you have to be able to hear it and take it in and not be offended.
Being in the
but when I heard that, I realized she was right. I went back to my critique group and I read, here's my existing chapter 1. Here's chapter 8 is chapter 1. Which do you like better? And I read the first 3 pages of each sample, and by far, it was pretty much 100% chapter 8 should be chapter 1. And so 6 months of writing, 7 chapters, but sometimes you have to kill your darlings. That's what they say in writing.
Yeah.
And I had to kill 7 chapters, and the book was better for it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and, you can always integrate things later. Sometimes I know when I'm writing, I get attached to certain phrases, and to shake them is hard.
Yeah.
And that's where a group like that is really important. Collaborative mind is always better than the singular mind. I'm a huge proponent of that as well.
Yes.
And I love, love, love to collaborate. Makes everybody better.
Yeah. And there's also one of the people in the big group that I first started with, he ran the group, and he said, when do these boys go to the bathroom? And I thought, I wasn't, because I'm so caught up in building the world and the characters and moving from one true event of Robert's life to the next, that I wasn't thinking about those nitty gritty, raw moments of life where, you could be running away and hiding in a lifeboat, but these boys are going to have to go to the bathroom. Yeah. And so he put that out there. And so there's a whole thing now in chapter 1 and whatever about them having to go to the bathroom, but it makes it real. Yeah. And if I wasn't open to that type of feedback, I wouldn't be there. So it's all good.
I think it's really important to do that, to be open to feedback. You're only going to get better from that. So I love that. So I appreciate you sharing part of your journey, but let's talk about your grandfather's story.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about your grandfather's story. It's really interesting.
Right. So was a great-great-grandfather. So this is 1849. Robert is 12. And he is number 8 of 12 children in the southeast small village of Hessel, England. And he's a loving relationship. His father had been killed in some accident. It's unclear what happened when he was young. So he didn't have much of a memory of his father, but he had all his brothers and sisters, and 3 brothers in particular, 1 younger, 2 older, that he was very close with. And then the oldest, who took over the family brickmaking business, his name was Thomas, who was a sanctimonious tyrant, as it says in the journal. Those are the exact words. And he was quite mean and very, very hard on Robert in particular, because Robert was named for the father, even though he was the 8th child. Oh. So for some reason, what he always suspected was that Thomas really resented the fact that he wasn't named for the father, he was named for somebody else.
He probably also resented the fact that he had to take on the father role because the father wasn't there anymore.
And I'm sure that's absolutely correct.
And that's probably why he was tyrannal.
Yeah. So Robert ended up, he got beat up a lot. He got verbally abused a lot. And the other kids were getting it, but really he got it the worst. And he had an episode and then another promised one coming up, and he knew that was happening, and he just had enough. And so he said, well, I have this life ahead of me, which is making bricks and mixing clay, and no inheritance. I'm too far down the line. I'm getting beaten up all the time. I'm done. I'm done. So in the middle of the night, he and his friend kind of packed a little satchel of bread and cheese and took off to the port of Hull, which was a big whaling port at the time. And they picked what they thought was a cargo ship. They climbed, it says in the journal, they literally shimmied up the anchor chain, climbed in the hawser hole, and stumbled around the ship till they got to the main deck, found a lifeboat and climbed in there. And they were in there for a few days before the ship left left the port.
Wow.
So their plan was, we'll work for our passage. We're nice. We're useful boys. We know how to fix things, etc. We'll just get off at the next port and have a new life. And that's really this naive 12 to, his friend was a little bit older than him. But this naive plan without a plan, essentially. So when they were found, turns out that they're on a British naval vessel, which is a big difference between sneaking onto a cargo ship versus a naval vessel. Yeah. So when they got found, it's kind of from the pan into the fire. So he ran away from one bad situation and put himself in another. So now he had to figure out how to survive and how to continue his journey. And so it just evolved from there. And he spent 7 years of his life traveling all over the world, having all kinds of crazy adventures on naval ships, on whalers, lost in a jungle, all kinds of crazy stuff. So
and that's all in the book.
It's all in the book.
Yeah.
Well, book one has half the ocean-faring adventure. Book 2 will have the second half, and book 3 will be his trek eastward across the nation from 1856 to 1866. He basically walked from San Francisco to Nebraska while we were having westward expansion, the pioneering days, the end of the gold rush, just before the start of the Civil War. So lots of things were happening in American history, and everyone's coming west and he's going east. So that's going to be book 3. So it's going to be really an incredible research journey for me. So
right now it's potentially 3 books, maybe 4 books. I heard.
Yeah, if
the series.
Yeah, so if I can't get his whole trek across America into 3, it might spill the 4, but I'm going to try to get it into 3. Yeah,
that's great. So it's a whole series coming out. It starts with Runaway at Sea.
Yes,
this is the first book that's coming out in just a week.
Yes,
it's so exciting.
I know.
So excited. It's really it's a great story. But what I love even more about this is your journey with it. Is that you had this tucked away. What reminded you that you had it?
Well, I feel like you're going to love what triggered it for me. So my grandfather died on his 96th birthday in 2002, April 11th. Yeah, 96. So about 2 years later, my grandmother passed. So my sister and I were at my house drinking some wine, writing her eulogy, and all of a sudden, I just popped into my head as I'm writing things about the nightgowns she gave us and, all the things that we did with her, growing up, our whole lives. And I went to the filing cabinet and I pulled it out and I read Robert's story, and it blew me away. It just blew me away.
Had you had read it before?
I had skimmed it before, but I was, at the time when my grandfather gave it to me, I was so much more focused on the shoe than the story. Yeah. And then when I was writing the eulogy with my sister for my grandmother, that's when I actually pulled it out and read it, and it just blew me away. And I thought, this is a courage story. This is a boy to manhood story. And when I wrote the introduction of the book is actually the words of my great-grandmother on the first page of the journal.
Oh, wow.
So this is her explaining why she's writing this all down and why she feels it was important, and how she remembers him as her father, telling all these incredible stories to them. So it's so that was my mother's idea to actually make that the introduction, and I think it works really well. But so that's what triggered it for me. And then from there, it just germinated, and then it just turned into something.
This major project.
Project that is now going to be this published series. So it's really exciting.
And so you took the journal, and then you did a ton of research.
Yes.
Walk us through, because a lot of people are just like, oh, I'm just going to sit down. And it needs to be fact-based, and you need to talk about things that anybody knows this. You've heard this from any English teacher that you have ever had, is write about what you know. Yeah. But you didn't know a lot about this.
No,
I didn't know what was your process?
Yeah, I didn't know anything about the age of sail. I love being out on the water, but I am not a boater, so I don't give me the controls of a sailboat. I don't know how to do it. I certainly learn it. Note to self. So it did take a lot of research, and I, along the way, have a couple of pivotal research moments. One was the 7 chapters I ended up dropping. Yep. I found a librarian in Hessel when I was writing those, I asked her for some pictures of Hessel from that time period. So then when I'm writing about him skipping down the street of the village and this and that, I could describe it accurately because so she really loved the story. And this was kind of pre-texting, and email was kind of in its infancy and all that.
Right.
So we did a lot of handwritten back and forth. So she found my family tree. She drew it out for me. She did all this research about who was who and wrote me a 10-page handwritten letter about my family and how they were in the town and the brickmaking business. So it was really, really fascinating.
Oh, see, that's exciting. I love that part.
So, and then the other pivotal point for me was I wrote a letter to the director of U.S. Naval History, Dr. Michael Crawford, who has no idea he helped me as much as he did. And I actually just recently reached out. He's retired now, so I had to try to find him. So I reached out to this other editor person. Hopefully he'll get the message. But I wrote him a letter requesting a phone interview because he was down in D.C. So his secretary called me and said, "What's going on? What are you working on?" So I explained it to her. She loved the whole concept of the project. She said, "Give me all your questions." So I said, "I got this guy's ear. I'm going for it."
Well, hold your thought on that.
Okay. So we're going to hold it there.
Yeah, we're going to hold it there, and we're going to come right back. You're listening to Healthy Lifestyle. I'm Lori Anne Casdia. We're here with Margreit Maitland, and we're going to continue this conversation. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Healthy Lifestyle. I'm Lori Anne Casdia. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas you'd like to hear more about, please email us at healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com. That's healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com. And of course, follow us on social media at Healthy Lifestyle with LA. We love hearing from you. I really, really do. And we answer every email and post personally. And I'm so excited. Next month, we're going to be live streaming on Facebook while we're doing this. So back to where we left off, where we last left off with Margreit Maitland. We were talking about her reaching out to Dr. Michael Crawford. So you were telling us about it. I had to stop you. I'm so sorry.
Right. That's okay.
But so exciting. So he had a really impactful help for you.
Yeah, he really did impact the whole project, and I'm certain he has no idea.
That's so great.
Yeah, which I, as I say, I recently tried to find him, so hopefully he'll get the message I sent out a couple of weeks ago. So what happened was I had submitted to his secretary about 2 pages worth of questions to answer everything from command structure on a naval vessel to, because all of our naval procedures are essentially based on the British Royal Navy.
Right.
So anything that we have is pretty much going to be an authentic match for the most part for the British naval from the age of sail from this time period. So I submitted all these questions, and his response was he did answer a few, but for the most part what he said was he felt it was better for me to actually find the answers myself, and he gave me a 2-page bibliography of fiction and nonfiction books for reference. And so everything from, Moby Dick and White Jacket to the seamanship and really technical books. So it sent me and my local librarian on this hunt down for, because they were incredibly helpful. They're also in my acknowledgments of the times I would come in with these obscure titles that they would have to order from the only one library in Kentucky has it, or some library in Southern California, and these books were coming in from all over the place, and I was making little charts of the anatomy of a sail and how to tack a ship, and I was taking all these notes and this and that. So by doing that and sending me on that research track, when I was writing about the characters and the exposition parts of the narrative, right, it made it so much more authentic because I knew what I was talking about, because I spent so much time reading through all of this information.
Yeah, and brilliant guidance.
Yeah. So it was my give a man a fish or teach a man a fish moment. And so he taught me to fish. And so I'm very, very grateful to him for that.
That's absolutely brilliant. Just getting the answers doesn't really sufficiently actually give you the answers, even though it's only from one person's perspective. You developed your own perspective of what was going on and was and is incredibly accurate. When you read the book, it's incredibly accurate.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to read some excerpts, and incredibly accurate information, and you're just dead doggone. So it's important when you're writing to, and I'm in the process myself, as you know, writing my book, and it is it's really important to be accurate and do that research and take that time, and you did, and love the process, right?
Yeah, it was really, really fascinating to throw myself into learning something completely new, new. So it was great, and it does remind me of back in the day, pre-Google, when I was growing up, and I had a question: why is the sky blue, or why is the grass green? And my grandparents and my parents would send me to the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yes, we had those too.
In the bookshelves in the back of the living room, and I would be sent directly there to go look up the answer for myself. So it's interesting that I grew up like that, but while I was writing the book, that lesson came right back to me from this gentleman. So,
well, it's a really good lesson, because even though we watch other people do it, it kind of goes to a lesson I learned a few years back. And a friend of mine said, they know that I'm adventurous, and they said to me, don't watch the Discovery Channel, be the Discovery Channel. So go out and learn it. You could watch somebody doing it, but why would you do that? Just go do it. Feel that experience, and that goes to everything that I do today. I'll go out and feel that uncomfortability that I gently push my mentoring clients into, and I get it. It's uncomfortable. It's not happy.
Right.
But my mentor is doing the exact same thing to me, putting me in those places. But you only grow with those experiences.
Absolutely.
And you grew by
leaps and bounds. Yeah, it did incredible things for my writing. The research, absolutely,
and plus told a better story. You tell a better story as a result, and it's an incredible story, and I'm excited to say that that you can get a taste of that story if you go to, and we'll have this link up on our website and in our social media, but if you go to get a prequel taste of the story, you can go to it. It's a really tough link to send you to, but if you go to Runaway at Sea at Margreit M at Facebook page, or if you go to runawayatsea.com, you're going to be able to get a little taste of the story, and maybe that'll push you to this page.
Yeah, and if you and if you do have trouble with any of those links, and you email me at margreitm@gmail.com, I can email you the free ebook download.
You're going to want to read it. It's going to give you a taste, and then as soon as the book comes out, you're going to want to get it, because it's outstanding, and it's only one of 3. So I think it's that addictive Harry Potter-esque kind of feeling where you're just going to want to keep learning what's going on in his journey.
Yeah, I hope so.
I know after the pages that I had read, I was just like, okay, what's coming? it really leaves you wanting more. And it's an exciting, I like how you phrased it. It's a story of courage, and boy to man, no doubt, but it's the story of courage. And every day we have an opportunity to take those leaps and to be courageous. And that's just from helping each other and learning new things and stepping out of our comfort zone. So I love the basis of this story. And so what inspires you? What's your why?
I guess my why is wanting to show, I guess in this story about Robert, just show people like what a 12-year-old can do. Kind of remember
anything is possible.
Yeah, anything is possible. Pre-digital, pre-Google, pre-convenience of this, download this, that, or the other thing. How people survived, and I think that history is important. It's the basis of our nation, and I just. To me, it was very inspiring, and the process, I hope. So if I get out to schools, to get out to speak about this experience, just to be inspired to step outside my comfort zone, to create something special, and also something for my children to have, a piece of their family history in this amazing format. So
so we talk about serving one another. That's what we're here to do: serve and learn, and by putting out a book, a piece of your history, of your family's history, sharing the story, taking it to another level by doing all of that research, that share is really important. So you are touching lives in such an incredible way where anything is possible. Look at how we used to do it. Let's be grateful for how we can do it now, because the Google is really very helpful. But there are other things like libraries, and I do love my books. As much as I love electronics and stuff, there's nothing like reading a book, having it in your hands. And don't get me wrong, I love my Kindle. It's really good when I travel. But sitting at home in a comfy couch reading a really good story, I'm sure you remember as a young girl, I used to chew up books as a kid.
Oh my gosh, I read so much. And so the thought that, some 5th, 6th, 7th grader or grown up, somebody reads the book that will inspire them to find out more about history, to wake up their world to literature. Literature is so important. It was so important in my adolescence, and I felt it. I read a lot with my children. We read all kinds of things. It helped their vocabulary. It helped their brain development. It helped our time together. It was something really special. So waking up somebody's love for literature, and if that happens for one person from this book,
absolutely,
I'll be so excited about that.
Well, it's not just literature, and this too, it's historic. So that history is important. Our history is important. Our history is the basis of where we are. And it looked different years ago, and now we look back and go, oh my God, that's just heinous. But our history is our history. We learn from it. For me, I look at our history and go, yes, we used to, have Roman fights and have people in with lions in the middle of a Colosseum. That's no mas now, obviously. But back then, that was standard form. We had a learning curve and said, ooh, that's not good. And we changed that. So yay us. And hopefully we're getting better as we develop, and we're learning, like we keep saying on Healthy Lifestyle, is learning, reaching out, making yourself bigger, having that footprints that our energies touch each other. But stories like this are really helpful to look at how people got over things when they didn't have as many tools. And now you look at the tools we have available to us today, there's no reason why we don't have the outreach and we can't get over things. And, over things meaning over hurdles, jumping hurdles. We are able to communicate with each other a lot easier than writing a letter and waiting weeks. Back then, months, sometimes years.
Yeah, absolutely.
For it to get delivered to you. So with that said, it does a lot of different things when you read the story, other than just being a really good story. It's a really good story.
Yeah. I can't even, and when I think about, well, if he had not survived any of those voyages, if he had not survived his trek across the country, perhaps I wouldn't be here.
Yes.
So
it's true.
Yeah, it's true. And it's inspiring. And like I said, I hope it wakes up a love of history and literature and learning and stepping outside, because this was definitely something that was not an area of expertise for me, and it was building it over time.
But I love that you shared the story, and that's really important to tradition, is sharing that story. What's your top 5 books?
Gone with the Wind.
Yes.
Anna Karenina.
Nice.
Yeah. Those are my top 2. All Creatures Big and Small.
Yes.
Little Women.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I want to say, gosh, Jane Austen. Oh my gosh, it just flew out of my head.
Is that a pun? Jane Austen flying out of your head? That's very funny.
Well, anything,
I can't think of it right now.
But I love Sense and Sensibility, but the other one, and oh my gosh, the title just flew out of my head. There was a movie, Anyway.
It'll come back.
Yeah, it'll come back to me, but it's a Jane Austen.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, a ton of Stephen King, a ton of Daniel Steele.
Of the top 5, the top 5, what was it that resonated with you?
With Gone with the Wind, I just was so caught up in Scarlett's obsession with Tara, the house.
Yeah.
And everything was about, and I'm not saying I agreed with it, but I'm just saying her entire existence, everything about her was to work that land, to own that home. Every relationship fell by the wayside.
Underlying thing was she was preserving history and tradition. Yeah, which goes to what you just did.
Yeah.
So it's funny that resonates. Not funny, but not funny, haha. But it's ironic how that resonates with you, because she was all about this is how it's going to be. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
I love that. That's courage.
Yeah.
That's definitely someone who has a vision, and she stuck to it regardless.
Oh, completely. Yeah.
Of course, I can't help to mention the Carol Burnett episode where she makes the dress out of the curtains and the curtain rod's still in. So, and if you've never seen Carol Burnett,
I saw that Carol Burnett.
I know, it's
I grew up
hysterical.
watching her.
I love that. So anytime someone says Gone with the Wind, I remember that episode of Carol Burnett. If you've never seen it, just Google it. It is hysterical, and it really does speak to the fact that she was intense about maintaining her family's property. It was really the only thing she had.
Well, to her, it was all about, I think the house to her was her father. So when her father died, it was unthinkable to her that she wouldn't have that house because he was that house.
Yes.
So,
and it would have been a disservice to him. And, and it's about resiliency, and I love it.
Yeah.
Literature is obviously so important. It grows our mind and helps our creativity and makes us more imaginative,
right?
Which makes us grow, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's just a win-win across the board. If you had one thing that you could say, like almost like last words to our listeners, what would you say to them? What would be kind of inspiring?
Don't give up. Because there were so many times or moments when I felt like this was just a silly pipe dream and it was never going to happen and I should just do something else. And there were other people who were discouraging for the project, etc. And I stuck with it and I plugged away, even if it was only 1,000 words a week, or even if I had to skip a week because it was busy with the kids or my regular job or any other thing going on in my life. It was, that's my thing. Like I didn't give up, and I have to say I'm very proud of myself for that.
You should be proud of yourself. And to the end of people in your life who love you, no doubt, who discourage you, just remember that they're just trying to prevent you from maybe failing. And it really is about them when they're saying things like that. They're worried about them. It's not about them. It's about you. And that you stayed in the game was real important. It's like, I respect what you have to say, but this is something I have to do. So if anybody's out there writing or doing something that's really important to you and you're getting a lot of people around you saying, no, 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 if it really, really is a fire in your belly, follow the fire. Don't let anything get in the way. Jump the hurdles and just keep going. Yeah. And if it takes a little longer than you expect, don't worry about it. It's taking the time it's supposed to take. It will make you better and make it better, whatever it is that you're working on, right?
Completely.
Would you not agree with that?
Completely. And it has opened my mind to other possibilities. It's also opened my world. I've met some really, just in the last 4 months, incredibly inspiring women. You know many of the same ones.
Yes.
And I'm just in awe of the charitable work that they do, the community work that they do. And I just love that they're in my life now. And I can't wait to help them with the community service and to do more things with them. I mean, so the book really has opened up a whole world for me. And I'm very excited about that. I'm grateful.
Life after children, because this would not have happened earlier, and it happened now. It's supposed to. And giving back, you know how I feel about giving back. Giving back is really important. We're supposed to serve. When you're having a bad day, go help somebody else.
Yeah, go to a soup kitchen.
Yeah, it'll get you out. And it reminds us, because that's something that got me through really dark days in my life, was I knew no matter how bad it was for me, it was worse for somebody else. There was somebody or people out there having far more challenges than I was at that time. And what it does is it makes you pick up your bootstraps and just keep going and moving forward. So I think that's real important. And I love that you're in this circle, because the group of women are very strong, very supportive, uplifting.
Oh my gosh,
and you want to be surrounded by people who lift you up and support your dream. If somebody's saying, no, you shouldn't, get somebody else in that room with you, because you really need to have people surrounding you, helping you push your dreams. And this is going to be on fire. I feel it. I know it. It's going to be on fire. It's a really good story. You're a wonderful writer.
Thank you.
So if you guys get a chance to read just the prequel, read the prequel, because it'll definitely suck you in. You're going to want to read the book.
Right.
I can't wait till it comes out.
The title of the prequel is Bricks, Brothers, and a Breakaway. You can find the link on the Runaway at Sea Facebook page.
Great.
And again, it will be out on the website, is in development. I'm hoping it'll be up by Friday, but definitely by next Wednesday, the 5th, it'll be up.
That's when the books come out. Are you going to have any book signings anywhere?
Well, I'm going to be doing, I think, some scavenger hunt events for middle school kids. Nice. I'm going to be doing probably some wine events for grown-ups for the book stuff. So we're putting together some ideas. We're definitely putting some promotional stuff together.
Well, keep us apprised, and we'll share it with our listeners.
That's great. People. I would love that. Thank you so much.
And you guys, thank you so much for joining us today. But thank you, Margreit, for joining us, for your inspiration, for writing this book. I hope you get in touch with Michael Crawford, Dr. Michael Crawford.
Right.
Because I think he will be pleasantly surprised. It goes to what we talk about here, is that you never know how you touch someone until someone says something to you. I know that I have a story that goes back to my brother was in the Air Force, named after my dad, and I met this person, and I said, I have a very unique last name, Iulio, and they said, oh, the father or the son, or they said Ed, and I said my father or my brother, and they said, I don't know, I guess it's the older one. I said, oh, that's my father. And they said he was a teacher, and he was a superintendent of schools here in West Babylon. And they said that he saved their life. That but for my father, and this is telling
You're
me
kidding.
that but for my father, they would have either been dead or in jail.
Oh my gosh.
So you never know how you
yeah.
touch someone else's life. So definitely make eye contact, make a smile, do a little something. Thank you again for being on.
Thank you for having me. This was amazing. Thank you.
It's a pleasure, absolute pleasure. I'd love to have you back to talk about your launch and also to talk about your next book. How's that?
That'd be great.
Excellent.
That'd be
excellent.
great.
Are you working on it now?
Yes, I am.
Wow.
Yeah. Chapter 1's coming. I mean, it's like kind of half written, so I just have to rearrange things. But he's on a whaler in the beginning of 2, and so it's a lot of whaling stuff. A lot of still out at sea. So yeah,
I'm excited.
It's going to be actiony. First chapter is going to be action.
That's great. Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you again for being on.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us today on Healthy Lifestyle. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did with Margreit Maitland. Really look out for runawayatsea.com. The Runaway at Sea book should be out next week or beginning of February. And my heart, as you know, is always lifted by sharing this time with you. I want to thank Margreit again. Of course, our producer, fantastic, wonderful, magnificent Michael. And in the meantime, follow us on social media at Healthy Lifestyle with LA. Remember, we're here to serve one another. Take a moment, step out of your day, and do a little something for someone else. And always remember, do a little something for yourself every day. It starts there. It takes 21 days to build a habit and 90 days to build a lifestyle. Start with one new habit. Go for it for a week and then see if you can push it to 2. And then add a couple of things. Do it for yourself. You will see the difference. Create that habit. Create that new balance. Thank you again for joining us on Healthy Lifestyle. I'm Lori Anne Casdia. Until next time, play a higher role, serve a higher purpose, show up for you, and show up big.